Which what? No, no, no. Just to start something right on time at the Grove is to wait. I mean, it's like I mean, like the best, like the stuff I'm saying first is really important. Like I don't have 3 minutes of fluff to kind of wait as people are trickling. About to. You gonna come up and sit next to me? Hey, maybe you can do rim shots in the back. Ready? Ready? Perfect. All right. Welcome everybody who is here, and welcome the people that are watching, listening online. Um, this is the second time we've done this in the last year or so, and the fear after the first one, during I guess right before the first one was, well, we don't ever do this, and so Charlie's about to quit. If I quit, it's gonna be in a blaze of glory. I mean, it's not gonna be at some planned town hall. I mean, you'll know. No, I'm just serious. Um, sorry. Yeah, and so I've mentioned this a few times as we kind of be getting ready for this. Is that one of the things that we always want to do on Sunday? Is that when you like I tell people this in connections is that if you come on a Sunday, and that one Sunday happens to be the Sunday that you finally convince your friend to come, who's never been to church or hasn't been to church in a while, and this you finally convince them to come this Sunday. We don't want that to be business meeting Sunday, right? We want you to be able to tell your friend what to expect, and we want our Sunday mornings to have that celebratory feel to them, and talking a little bit of church business or saying things that really are directed more to the most committed people, like targeted messages to our committed people. Can some I want to do that when you've got like really new people in the room as well. And so we'll do this, and I don't have any plan for like some sort of regular. I'm gonna promise we're going to do this once every 6 months, once a year, but I would say at least once a year. We'll do something like this, and it kind of gives you an opportunity to ask any questions if you have them. If you want to ask them when we get through, as we're progressing, if you have a question and you don't want to raise your hand, what you can do is you can message me. You can send me an iMessage on my iPad. It'll just pop right up, and I don't have your number saved on my iPad, so it's about as anonymous as it could be. Or you can get on the Facebook feed and put it there, and then Brian will send it to me. Same kind of deal. So we're just kind of jump into this, kind of some things that we've been processing and thinking through a little bit as staff and leadership here at the church, and kind of goes back a few years for me. There's kind of been over the last 3 or 4 years. We do this every year, but specifically over the last 3 to 4 years, this has been a little bit different. Where in the spring, what we do is a handful of the leadership will get away, and we'll go spend a couple of days. It's kind of this retreat, and we'll spend some time kind of evaluating kind of how we feel like the year is going, do some encouragement for each other, and then spend some time also talking about what needs to happen next year. And so we have this process, we have it down now, where we just kind of look at how we feel like things are going. We're evaluating all these different ministries, and then we say, what would we say are the 3 to 4 things that if we're gonna improve just 3 to 4 things, what would they be? And so we put these things together, and it may be a particular ministry that needs some help, or it may just be a particular approach to something. And we'll put this together, and then we'll implement a plan for the next year to work that out. And what I feel like's happened over the last 3 or 4 years, I feel like we've done a really good job evaluating And I feel like we've done a decent job then implementing what we feel like the solutions to those problems are. But I've had this nagging feeling that there's something else. That it's not just that, hey, okay, we need to do this. I think the season of our ministry is such now that we need to have a full-time youth pastor, which is true. And we implemented that this year. And he's right there. It's Matt. Matt! Swing the boom camera over there and get. Oh, we don't have this. It's Matt. And that's an important thing, and some other things like that we've done and kind of implemented this fall that we feel like are really important. And that one is huge, and we know that it's going to make a big difference. But again, I've had this thing in my head, in my brain. It's like there's something else deeper, and I don't know how to even describe it. And so as I'm thinking and I'm processing, I'm like, because it seems like the changes that we're making, it still feels like that there's something holding us back momentum-wise. And so then, over the last 9 months or so, I've been thinking, whatever this is, it's something that I can't see or I'm going to struggle on my own to see. And so then you start thinking, what is it about me and organization that I would lead, or the way that I lead everything, or things that, what is it like? What are some things that I just wouldn't notice? And so then this came to me a couple of months ago, because there's the thing that you love the most about your spouse is very often a version of the thing that frustrates you most about your spouse, right? So like, this is what I love most about my spouse, and this is what frustrates me the most about your spouse, and really it's just kind of the same thing. So, for example, like you've got a spouse that's really detailed and organized. I think you can come up with 50 reasons why that's awesome, and 2 or 3 why it annoys you, right? And it's just like, it's frustrating. It's like, I wish you could keep our house completely organized and clean and straight and everything, all the systems running, and also just not be like that, right? But it's all one thing. And so here's what I've been saying is like, what is it about an organization? Like, I think about the church, my family, just my own personal life. What is a thing that would, like, this is going to be a strength of something, Charlie, that you're doing. What would be its complementary weakness? And so that's kind of how I was trying to attack this mentally in my brain. And so where I've ended up is one of the things that I think has been from the very beginning, for 9 years or so, has been one of the strengths of our church, if not maybe its primary strength, is the way that the not the literal, but the metaphorical, spiritual front door of our church is. We have had an incredible opportunity to welcome people into our church with some very troubled and difficult backgrounds. People who have a troubled past, people who have a very troubled present, people who walk in the door with a very obvious something, right? And we love people well. And it does not matter what your past is. It doesn't matter about your present. It doesn't matter what's going on with you. You will find a very safe, judgmental-free place here to be loved and encouraged into spiritual health without losing the truth of the gospel, without telling somebody, hey, it doesn't matter what you do, it's fine. It's not fine. You know it's not fine. That's why you're here. And we're not here to tell you it's fine. We're here to tell you we love you anyway. And we will love you back to health. And we have success story after success story. The 10 wildest stories that I've ever heard in my life of people who come to church, they've all come here. Of just, like, I get excited with each one. It's like I can't imagine any other church I've ever been a part of that would have one person with that story in their church, much less 3 or 4 or 5. And it's awesome, and it's created this incredible, gracious environment where, again, a wide diversity of people with a wide variety of pasts can come together and experience God's love and His healing. That's a strength. What would be a corresponding weakness that goes with that? Well, what I've come to understand, and I see this in all the relationships I have in my life, and so I also am now beginning to see it here as well, which is, with that, I sometimes lack the desire or the ability or the courage or whatever to look at someone who needs it and very directly say, I was almost just randomly pointed, you need to stop. That's not good. And I may say something in general on Sunday. Hey, you've all got issues and sins, and you're destroying yourself with those sins. And I say it generally, but sometimes I need to look at you specifically and say, what you're doing right now is not good for you. If you continue on this pattern, you're going to self-destruct. Your family is going to self-destruct. You need to stop this. And how do we, as a church, without losing the overwhelming amount of grace and compassion that we show to each other, without losing that, how do we get to a place where we can also look at each other in the eye and say, you haven't been to church for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I know you ain't been out of town. You need to set an alarm. You need me to come to your house. What is your problem? It's like, I thought you said you were in our small group. It meets Tuesdays, right? You know what yesterday was? Tuesday, right? I mean, you can say it however, but can we say it in a way that says to them, hey, I still love you, but I actually love you enough to look you in the eye and say, I expect more from you. You should expect more from you, and I'm going to hold you to this next step. Because here's the thing that I've discovered, and as I've been just trying over the last couple of weeks I've been trying to apply this just personally. What I find is that I'll notice things. I'll notice somebody start to drift one way or the other, whether it's like, out of a small group or out of serving or not being there on Sunday morning. And my natural instinct is, I bet there's just something going on with them. And I think, I bet it's this. I bet that's the reason why this is happening. And my heart is like, I want to be understanding. And sometimes being understanding is like, wow. And if I were to call them and say, hey, missed you on Sunday, is everything okay? They're going to hear that like angry. Because I notice this sometimes, because even as nice as I think I am, I'm still a lead pastor of a church. And if I think I'm saying something on a scale of 1 to 10 at a 2, the look on your face says he just yelled at me. And I'm like, I don't want that. It's especially true with new people. I walk up to them and I've got this thing on there and I'm like, hi. And they're like, oh, no, and they freeze and then the conversation's over. And can you imagine? Like I text you, maybe some of you who know I have your number, it'd be maybe different. Like if you didn't think I have your number and I texted you and I was like, hey, missed you yesterday. Right? It would just, like, I don't know. Yeah. And so then I think I'm being kind by not saying anything. And the reality of it is, you need me to say something. You need someone to say something. And I've just randomly, not particularly randomly, random, it's not the right word, just grabbed lunch with some people over the last couple of weeks and had these kind of conversations with them, and they're actually going really, really well. And I think I'm just beginning to realize in my own life that this is a muscle, say, maybe that I've allowed to atrophy. And I need to do a better job of that. Okay? So, we're going to start in the first, 5 to 10 minutes of that. I'm going to tell you, and now what I've told you is how I believe the core of this problem is me. And then I also told you some things that I'm working on to do better at. And at some point in the next, 30 to 45 seconds, it's going to transition, right? And because it's not just me that has some applications from this, and this is one of the things that I've been saying, people have been asking me, hey, man, kind of we're going to talk about the town hall, kind of what's on your mind. And I'll be like, well, I'm about to say something to you. I'll tell you what's on my mind. And here's what I want. I want you to take what I say, and I want you to apply it very personally. But I don't necessarily want you to take it personally, like I am only speaking to you. I'm not only speaking to you. And it's been the most uncomfortable when I've been one-on-one with somebody. Hey, man, how's things at the church? What you been thinking about? Like, well, I'm going to tell you something, and you're the only ones here, so it's going to be kind of awkward. But you need to hear this too. And so there's a sense in which there really is... We need to do a better job. And I think one of the ways I would describe it is that there needs to be a climate here in the Grove of what I'm just going to call very positive peer pressure, where we live in an environment where I'm going to live, and my involvement in this church is going to be in such a way where it is very obvious what a Grove Church person is supposed to do and be. And I'm going to live this way, and because I'm living this way and I'm acting this way, you should too. And the way that this is, I've seen this best work is in a college ministries that I've led, where you've got freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And you got to, first at the fall, you're trying to get as many freshmen as you can. The freshmen, they don't know anything about the ministry you're doing. You're just trying to get them to come to the meeting or the Bible study or whatever. But then you've got these sophomores. They've been around for a year. And now you're not supposed to be in the baby Bible study anymore. You're in this discipleship Bible study. And if you're going to be in the discipleship Bible study, you have to come to this meeting. You have to come to this meeting. And they understand that. And then juniors, okay, well, now you're going to be in this type of Bible study. We expect you to lead your own group of freshmen. And seniors are supposed to look this way. And there's this sense in which freshmen look at sophomores and say, okay, well, next year that's what I'm supposed to do. And sophomores look at juniors, and juniors look at seniors, and seniors are looking at the staff. And it's like, well, this is how I progress in my spiritual life here at this church. And so that's what we need to do. It's like, okay, a brand new person is looking at, I'm going to look at the people in my small group that I just joined. How do we act in this small group? The people that have been in your small group, they're looking to their leader, and their leader is looking to other people, and it's like to the elders and the trustees in the church, and the elders and the trustees are looking to the staff, and we're showing people what spiritual progression in the context of this church looks like. But what happens is, over time, you can just begin to drift from what basic church membership is supposed to look like. And then suddenly you get into a season of life or a time or struggle of some kind. You're like, I don't know that I want to be in a small group anymore. I mean, serving on Sunday is just so exhausting sometimes. I did that for a whole year, and I just don't know. And then suddenly you drift, and you've got reasons, and they're not bad reasons. They're legitimate reasons. And then I look at them and go, well, you got reasons. What? No. We've all got reasons. We've all got reasons why we shouldn't do the things that we know that we're supposed to do. To do the things that we know that will help us. To do the things that we know will help the people that God has put in my life to influence and grow them. And so I'm not going to give up on the things that I know I'm supposed to do as a basic church member, because I know that people are watching me. What if, hypothetically, I preach approximately 75% of the time. What if every Sunday Mark was preaching, I didn't show up? How many months do you think it would take you to notice? You would notice the first one, but you would think that there's something about that. The second one, you're like, wait a second. Well, now by the time it's gotten to 6 in a row, now you've figured something out. This dude just doesn't come to church when he's not preaching. And then you ask me about it. What do I say? It's like, I'm the lead pastor of this church. I've heard 10,000 sermons in my life. What is Mark going to say that I haven't already heard? That's gross sounding, isn't it? Like I want to go to a church somewhere, but I don't want to go to that dude's church. What if just randomly, mostly a lot of you here know my wife. Where does she serve? What does she do? Yeah, she's right there. How many Sundays in a month would you say she's there? All of them. If we're here, she's there. How many of you have noticed that's what my wife does on Sundays? Yeah. How many of you would notice if she didn't? If she strolled in midway through the last service, sat in the back, and then darted out of here as soon as she could. It's like, well, she's got a lot on her plate. Being the husband, being the wife, having a husband who is a pastor, that's stressful. Can you imagine it's stressful being any pastor's husband, being spouse, right? Me being the husband, I guess. You can't judge me. We needed to do it on Monday because Mermaids is closed, but I'm not fully recovered mentally by Monday, so y'all are going to need to stop. Because even though we're gracious, sometimes I got to tell you to stop. So stop making fun of me. It's stressful to be a pastor's wife. There's a lot of eyes on that, and she needs time, and you just don't understand. Honestly, we're just not even going to be in a small group right now. I mean, who would want me being in your small group would be weird anyway, and I'm the pastor, and I'm teaching every week, and so I'm growing, and I'm leading my family. We kind of have a family small group. I got all the reasons in the world, and if we executed any of those things, it would have a downline effect on everybody. But the fact that we are always in a small group, that our family serves, that we're always here both services, and we have all the reason in the world not to, that matters. And it matters that our staff does that. It matters that our elders and our trustees do that. It matters that our small group leaders do that. It matters that we all do that. Because there is someone in your life that someone else is looking to. And you need to live in such a way where you are showing someone the way. But what has happened, again, in part because of this culture problem that I believe that I've created, we've got a lot of people who are in the front door. And it's fine. I'm not really asking the people in the front door to change. If you need 6 months to heal, take 6 months to heal. If you need a year to heal, take a year to heal. If you're skeptical of church and church people and you want to hover out there for a while, we're gonna be waving the flag over here. When you're ready to be a part of this church, you come on. But if you're not ready, that's fine. But what happens is people say they're ready, and then sometimes I call like connections in this process. It's like the on-ramp to the church. Sometimes people are getting stalled in the on-ramp. And for four years or so, we've been kind of tweaking the process. Something's wrong with the process. And if we find just the perfect combination of how many weeks it should be and when it meets and how we do it and how often we do it and the content and all that, if we tweak it just right, then we'll figure that problem out. But I think people are getting stalled out because they don't have this magnetic force from the people inside who say that they're already in, pulling them towards what real involvement at the Grove looks like. And sometimes those people aren't doing a good job pulling them because the leaders that they're looking up to aren't pulling them. And so we all fall a little short of what God needs from us if we're going to make the Grove Church be and experience the full potential of what it could. And so then, we need to ask the question, answer the question well, what does a member of the Grove Church look like? What does a leader of the Grove Church look like? And then we need to make a commitment to say, because I value this group, because I value my commitment and these people and this mission that God has called us to, because of this great front door that we have, because of the incredible potential that our church has and the things that we're already doing out there, the number of missionaries that we've sent, the ministries that are being done out there. Because of these two things, this great front door and this great outreach that we have and the potential we have for even more, because of that, right here, I'm going to do and be the things that I need to be to pull these people in closer so that we can then launch more people out. But that's going to require us to take a step back and say, well, how am I falling short on this? So again, There's no one in particular, and especially I think the people who know me the most are probably going to feel the most like, well, I know he's talking to me. I'm talking to all of you. You should not take this personally, but everyone needs to apply this personally. Because you need to know, as the people who are willing to come out on a Monday and come to the church, or are willing to get online and look and take an hour and look at something online as we're just kind of talking business church. If you're willing to do that, I promise you, you have people in your life that are looking to you. And we need to decide, hey, am I willing to make the changes and the steps necessary in order for our church to kind of thrive in this way? And so, just as a reminder, question mark, the thing that we talk about in Connections, I'll just kind of bring those things up. There's 6 things. We talk about these 6 things. We've been talking about these 6 things for almost 9 years. It was within the first year, probably 8 years we've been talking about these things. The 6 things that we expect: connect, give, serve, pray, protect, invite. Connect. As a pledge, this is what's part of our membership. You're going to be a member. You're saying, I'm committed to getting connected. I'm going to connect. I'm going to pursue a personal relationship with God. I'm going to make Sundays a priority, and I'm going to get into a small group. The statistic is that people on average come to church about every other week. I think we can and should do better than that. I think that there are some things that happen on Sundays that you just can't get anywhere else. The corporate worship, the collective word of teaching that God has for us as a group, the ability to be the hands and the heart of God to who knows who God may put around you. And the one Sunday you miss, it happens to be the Sunday that somebody sat in the row right behind where you sit, that you could have made a difference in their life. And I'm going to make Sunday a priority, because not only do I need it, not only does the church need me, but who knows who may God put in my circle on that Sunday who's not a part of our church that may need me. I'm just going to make this a priority. Because even if I'm in a season where maybe every week I could still maintain my own spiritual growth just fine by coming once a month, one every 3 weeks. Maybe you can. What about the people that are looking to you? Can they? And I think it's time for a lot of us to begin to think, I've got to start living my life and considering my church involvement in such a way where am I modeling to the people who are looking up to me what good, healthy spiritual growth looks like? So I'm going to get connected. I'm going to pursue a relationship with God. I'm going to make Sunday a priority. And I'm going to get in and be committed to a small group. That's connect. I'm going to give. Can I put a pause on that? Because we're going to come back to that. We're going to kind of come back to how we're doing giving-wise. It's actually like 90% awesome. So it's not going to be bad, but we're going to come back to it because it wants to be its own thing. But there has to be this sense in which we make a decision to say, hey, in order for us to do this thing, it takes a collection of resources. I can't just depend on a few people. As long as we got a few weird people that tithe, No, it takes all of us and our pooled resources to do whatever God has for us to do. Connect, give, serve. I say this in Connections. I say it again to you. I don't know of anybody, anywhere, who has ever grown in their relationship with God for more than about a minute that is not taking a part of their life and serving. Just giving a little bit of their life away. Now, the question then becomes, does that service need to be inside the church? And part of me just wants to turn that back to you. I'll ask you that. There are people in your life looking to you about what it means to be a part of the church. Should you be seen and show and demonstrate to them that I am someone who is committed to serving at my church? Do you think it is a proper attitude for someone who has never been a part of a church at all to think about their Sunday morning experience and say, I want to come here and be blessed by the church, and I want to come here and I want to bless my church? I mean, that's rhetorical. And I actually got a little sarcastic there at the end. I didn't necessarily mean for that to be sarcastic there at the end, right? Of course that's the case. We come here to bless each other. And we talked about this on yesterday if you were there. We don't want there to be any distinction in the minds of people that somehow there are people who give and there are people that receive. That when we come here together on Sunday, we are here to serve and minister to one another. Now, obviously there are seasons that people go through and people who are leading significant ministries outside the church, and we want to honor that. But even still, I promise you, there are ways to serve on a Sunday morning that are not going to require an overwhelming amount of time or spiritual energy from you, but are a way to you to demonstrate in your own life, to your kids' lives, to the people in your small group, what it looks like to serve. Connect, give, serve, pray. I just continue to I talk about this all the time, especially in Connections. You need to be praying for the church every day. I have the reminder, it's on my phone. Comes up every morning, 8 o'clock. Dear God, please bless the Grove Church today. Amen. Pops up on my phone. Even if you think, man, I'm not really someone who prays a lot, if all 600 to 800 adults or so that identify as coming to the Grove prayed those 9 words every day for a week, I promise you, you would notice a difference in the spiritual climate of the church following Sunday. You just would. I mean, it just seemed different in there today. When God's people pray, the Spirit of God moves. We need to make that commitment. Connect, give, serve, pray, protect. Protect what that means, protect the reputation. You need to put the Grove Church sticker on the back of your car and then drive accordingly. Right? I mean, I've got all sorts of stories about people who see me in odd situations and people are always watching me whether I know they are or not, but it happens to all of us. There's always people who are looking to see if someone who says that they follow God, if that faith is genuine or not, and they're looking at you. And we need to not just drive, but we need to live in a way that honors God's reputation, that honors the church's reputation. Connect, give, serve, pray, protect, invite. I'm an inviter of my friends, and I'm a welcomer of the new people that come. It's actually a relatively simple 6 things to do. They're simple. You may think tithing is financially challenging. There are some of you who may think that being at church on a Sunday for 3 hours is overwhelming. I've got a speech for that I'm not quite ready to give as I'm flexing this muscle, like talking ugly to people, right? Which is not technically, I guess, what I said I was going to try to do. Of challenging people, especially when people say, well, I've got kids, and that's a long time for kids to be at church. I'm like, man, I've raised 3 kids. One's going to be 22, one just turned 19, and one's going to be 8 in a couple of months. And every Sunday of their whole life, they have been at church at least 3 hours. There was a season when we were doing 3 services. They were worship 1, serve 2. And they seem okay. You should ask them. Are you okay? Are you a bad kid? Do you talk to your therapist about this? I mean, you ask them, right? They're fine. In fact, what better group to model to? Why don't we stay in here for both services? Well, it's important for us to worship once, and then we serve once. Well, I'm sitting in the same class twice. Well, the second time you sit in the class, you can help the kids who were there the first time. Layla, who is 7, has given herself her own job. Anybody seen Layla with her service job on Sundays? She did it on Sunday after the second service. She goes back there to those little candles right there and just one by one is examining each one of them to see if any of them have gone down too far. And if they have, she'll go and replace them. Somebody told her, I guess it was probably you. You probably showed her, right? She showed her where the new ones are. And so she went and she grabbed, it was too hot. So then she went and got some paper towel and came back and was holding on to it, even though it was hot, and took it back there and replaced them. She's got her own serving role. Skylar's kids have their own serving role. They do all the connection cards and stuff like that. What a great thing to model. Being a part of a church for 3 hours on a Sunday, when half of that is all about you, and the other half is you living out the life that God has called you to live, which is to live a life of service. We just need to get to that spot. And ultimately what this comes down to is we need to just kind of have this attitude. And part of this you'll recognize from the name of the series, We Will. He's like, oh, I'm starting to sense some sort of elaborate weaving here. And some of the things that we've been talking about as we've been kind of applying the sermons on Sunday. We have to just all collectively and individually make a decision. It's like, I really love this church. It's meant a lot to me. It's meant a lot to my family. And if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. We have to do this. I have a part to play. And the way that I describe it in connections with new people is, you come to church on a Sunday, you have expectations. You have expectations of the quality and rehearsedness of the band. You know, you have an expectation that someone has prepped a message and will deliver it appropriately, that somehow the Holy Spirit was involved in that process, that if you have kids, that you're going to drop them off in a safe environment and be returned to the exact number of kids in a relatively the same condition, right? And actually that they've been encouraged a little bit themselves, right? That they've been challenged. You have expectations. You have expectations that the lights will be on, the air conditioner will work. I mean, bathrooms are clean. You have lots of expectations, and they're all reasonable expectations. I'm not saying you shouldn't have expectations. I'm just saying that we need to live in a place where you have expectations of me, I have expectations of you, we have expectations of each other, because we're doing this. And this thing that God has done in my life at this church, I want to see that replicated. And in order for me to see that replicated, it's going to require a different level of commitment and focus from me than what I've currently been doing. And so what that looks like for you, what it looks like for you individually is completely and totally, I mean, that's between you and the Spirit. And ultimately the people who are giving you direct influence. But you're just going to continue to kind of experience over the next few months just kind of this magnetic pull that God is wanting us to just get a little bit more serious about this big picture mission that God has called us to. And so, kind of let that sink in for a little bit. And if you have any questions or follow up on that, please feel free to let me know. Now we can just kind of talk about maybe just some little bit more specific details of some things that we need to improve. Big picture, again, big picture. We're doing this. And that requires me to reconsider maybe my approach and attitude towards what it means to be a part of the church. In the little picture, there's a few little tweaks of sorts that we need to make in the short term. So that was big picture. Now in the short term. In the short term, let me tell you a story. It was September 16th, 2019. And in the first service at the Grove Church, there were 42 kids, which is a reasonable number of kids to be in Grove Kids. And then 1.5 hours later, at 10:30, there were 92 kids at Grove Kids, which is an unreasonable amount of kids to be at Grove Kids. Not unreasonable. I'm not calling it unreasonable. We'll call it full. It's full. And to know some little bit about church and the way that church works, when something gets 80% full at a church, people mentally think it's full. And when people think something is full, their attendance drops, visitors drop. If you know something's full, you're not going to invite people to it. Something mentally happens. So where can a church get full? It can get full in here. It can get full in the parking lot. It can get full in the kids' classrooms. And it can be, if it's full in the kids' classrooms, it doesn't matter what it looks like in here. We're done. If the parking lot's full, it doesn't matter anywhere else. We're done. Our parking lot's fine. If you were there on Sunday, second service, it was decently full in here, second service. And if it's decently full in here, there's people crying back here, right? And I don't mean the kids. And so we're going to have to make an adjustment. We're going to have to get more people to come to first. If you have kids, you need to come to first service. If you can, please come to first service. It is a very simple act of service. I will set my alarm and get here a little bit earlier so that my seat and my kids' space in the kids' classrooms can be taken by somebody else in the second service. Because honestly, we could be at a point where it's like, if 50 of those kids move to the first service, I assure you at 10:30, which is the time all people want to come to church, we will find 50 kids to replace them. They'll just magically come. It's just how this works. But as long as it's full, it's not. And so a couple of objections to that or concerns that you might have, I'll give you 3. 1, I have a 5th and 6th grader, and 5th and 6th grade is only in the second service. We are developing a plan maybe where that's not going to be the case. Second, I have a teenager, and Roots is only in the second service. I don't know if you know this. Matt, would you describe the Grove House on Sunday mornings as empty or full?
Pretty full.
It's pretty full. Have you seen 30 teenagers in one spot? Have you been to the Grove House? Right? Okay, so we're working on some plans and some ideas to kind of bring balance. In the meantime, if that doesn't apply to you, we would love to see you at the 9 o'clock service. It is a very simple thing to do. But then you may say, well, if I come both services because you're asking me to serve, I'm not getting rid of my kids' second service. Man, I will gladly figure out the problem. If we've got so many people who are coming to both services that we've just got kids stacked on top of kids, I beg you to make us figure that out. Wow, no, please don't throw me in the briar patch, right? I mean, that is a problem we would love to solve. And if you are serving both services, we're not asking you to come to one service, serve second, and leave your kids at Einstein's. We're not asking you to do that. I mean, we'll figure that piece out. Because right now, that is probably our greatest challenge. Is right now, our Grove kids, workers, we're just kind of figuring that out week to week. And I don't want to say breaks my heart, because that's a little bit overstated, but it makes me a little bit sad when I hear Leslie and Kanya talking about it's Monday, and what they're thinking about is, can we get enough people to work this Sunday? And one of the things I figured out, and this kind of plays into some of the big picture things that we're talking about, is right now our staff are spending a lot of energy just trying to figure out how to make our church do basic church functions, that it's preventing the people whose job it is to really be thinking about the big picture of what's next, because just making church happen at its basics is requiring too much energy. So we need approximately 40 people every week in Grove Kids. And the easiest thing in the world would be for us to figure out 80 people. 80, that's it, 80. 80 people who say, I serve in Grove Kids at least every other week. And so there's two of you. And the two of you figure out what week we're doing it. We're the first service 2-year-old teachers, and I'll do it half the time, and you'll do it half the time. And then that's easy. It's easy. 80 people. I'm here at the Grove every week. There's way more than 80 people. Way more than 80 awesome, committed people who can make a decision to say, I can at least serve in Grove Kids 25, 26 times a year. I can do that. And you would just be amazed at what the repercussions of that would be, what the return on that would be. And honestly, it is one of the most important, precious, amazing opportunities that we have as a church, to be able to love and encourage and teach our small children about God. Not to mention the fact, and I say this always as kind of half joking, but it's serious. You know who the MVPs of the church are every week? The people who keep the toddlers out of the service. You know, the joke is, and I've been a part of churches that do this, and it seems like a jerk move to me. Like those, well, we're just going to close the toddler service down one week and just show them. We're not guilt motivators right now, but I don't want to be a guilt motivator right now. I'm going to think if we're nice enough, that'll motivate you. I'm kind of switching from that to kind of challenge motivation. We don't want to move to guilt and jerk motivation. But at the same time, our kids are awesome. And providing a mom with an opportunity to hear clearly from God without having to deal with the toddler, without all of us having to hear from the toddler, and to be able to love specifically on that toddler, it's a huge thing. It's an amazing opportunity that we have. And there are enough of us for this to be easy. So, again, Don't take that personally, but apply it personally. And with that, we could say the same thing about our hospitality ministry. From the parking lot to the front door to right in there to our ushers. Right now, I would say that we are achieving basic functionality of kindness and hospitality to people. We're doing fine. Somebody's going to come into the church, they're going to be able to find the front door and have at least a couple of people who are really nice and friendly, welcome them and greet them as they come in. But I'm telling you, there is a complete other level of hospitality and that we could do for our people if we're just like, well, I can do that. And you know, for a lot of those, you know, you wouldn't have to be here the whole 3 hours. I mean, but just to be able to say that I'm going to be there and I'm going to consider it my job. I am the host of these people. There's a lot of creative ideas that we could be doing to make sure that all of our new people are welcomed well. But that's going to require us to say that I'm going to make a commitment to this. I'm going to make a commitment. Like, again, you're going to be here at church anyway every week, right? We've already established that like 20 minutes ago. You might as well just come 15 minutes early and put on a lanyard and greet people. And here's the other thing that kind of goes with that a little bit. Interesting thing. You may not believe this, but there are some people that are here before the service starts. Just bear with me here for a second. Like it's 10:25, and there are people sitting in seats waiting for the service to start. You know who they are? It's the new people. They don't know any better. They don't know the church starts at 10:35. They think it starts at 10:30 because that's what the website says. Silly people. And when we don't show up on time, you know what that does? That is like 5 minutes of incredible awkward for them. And it's just weird. It's weird for them. So at a minimum, just do that. But then it's also a great opportunity. It's like, he says there's new people here. I don't see them. Yeah, because by the time you get here, the lights are already down. But if you got here early before the service starts, they're right there. You can point them out to you because they're the ones sitting in the seats. And again, these are really small things. I'm going to switch from second service to first service. I'm going to get here 15 minutes early and greet people. I'm going to get here on time and greet new people. There's just really simple, small things that we can do that, again, that can just kind of change our heart and mind and attitude about what it is I'm here for. Because everybody has to go through this process. We all have to go through the process, and this was week 1 of We Will, for those of you who were there. We all have to make a transition in our spiritual life where we stop evaluating through the lens of what is in this for me. And we move to that, to what is in this for me and what does God want from me. And again, that's going to make our Sunday morning experience, our small group involvement, it's going to make all of these things look differently as God progresses us to this idea of God is calling me to be a vital cog in this machine to make this church do and be what he's called us to. Last thing is this, before we get to kind of any questions or anything that we might have. We've been in this building now for about 6 or 7 years, and the way that our lease is structured, we have 5 more years left on our lease. At the end of that 5 years, any number of things could happen over the course of the next 5 years. The building could change ownership. We could outgrow the space. Any number of things could happen. Or everything is the same as it always is, and we would negotiate a new lease, and we would stay here some more time. Any number of things could happen. How many of those things are we financially and mentally prepared for? Not very many of them. Because, again, as we talked about with Grove Kids, as we talked about with hospitality, we are at a place right now where we spend all of our energy making sure basic church function happens. We've got enough kids workers week to week to make Grove Kids happen. We've got enough hospitality people to make hospitality happen. We've got enough giving right now to, we're meeting our weekly need. We increased our budget, it's the most it's ever been, to $14,000 a week. And through 4, 8, 11 weeks of our fiscal year, we are running a surplus on the largest number that we've ever needed, which is great. We need 14, and it's close to like 14.5 or something like that, which is great. What if, and just dream with me here, what if instead of 14 a week, at the end of this year, we brought in 18 a week? What would that mean? Well, that would mean at the end of the year, we had, anybody? No? Huh? More than $200,000 of money that we did not have budgeted. We've had surpluses before. That's why we have about $50,000 in a building fund right now. What if this time next year that was $250,000? What if the year after that it was $500,000? What if the year after that it was $1 million? And then, no matter what opportunity God had for us 5 years from now, we would be financially stable and prepared for whatever God might have for us next. Because if we follow through on all the things that we've talked about here today, then suddenly we're talking about having 700-800 people here a week, and we're back to 3 services, and we're asking all these questions, and God is just overwhelming us, and we're trying to figure out how can we get more kids' classroom space somewhere, and we're thinking about, well, this building isn't going to be here for very long. And in order for us to do something different 5 years from now, we have to start thinking about what that means right now. You don't decide what's going to happen 5 years from now, 4 years from now. 4 years from now is too late. And so you think, what's he getting at? Is he about to start a building campaign? Has he identified a piece of property? It's nothing like that. But I'm telling you, before we even get to that spot, we've got to prepare ourselves right now. And to prepare ourselves for what God has for us 5 years in the future requires us at this moment in 2019 not only to consider everything that we've talked about up until this point, but it's going to require more of us to say, okay, I will become a tither. If we all started tithing, I mean, it would just, we probably would never have to talk about money again. We would just only be talking about money to new people. Right? That's all we would talk about, because money would not be an issue. But money continues to be an issue for all the spiritual reasons that we talk about, and we'll talk about again this spring, and all the battles that we have. But if we just made it part of our commitment right now, I'm here, this is tithing, I'm at least going to get to here. I'm here, I'm at least going to get to here. I'm going to work on this because, again, I want us to see, I don't want there to be any limits on what we need to do. What if a year from now we needed to figure out some creative way to have some additional classroom space somewhere on this property? Most problems like that can be solved with money. They just can be. It's like, well, if you have enough money, you can solve that problem. What if we were just at a place where no challenge that we had next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and again, especially 5 years from now, because we're making a commitment that we can face any of them, because I'm willing to make a commitment right now that whatever it takes, I'm going to do. I'm going to do those 6 things. That requires a change in my giving, my service, my presence, my involvement. And then, I mean, it will be amazing to see what happens. And so, again, without losing the gracious spirit that we have, I think that you're just going to find just again some more, again, just hopefully that peer pressure magnet that we should continue to love and be gracious with the new people, continue to be understanding with each other as we kind of go through different seasons, but at the same time helping each other make the next steps that we need to. All right. Wow. Is the red mug a prop or a metaphor? Does it have greater meaning? Nope. Just Coke Zero. Ooh, here's a thought from Kanya. Kids ministry is primarily video driven. Keep it where you could walk in with zero training and be able to run a class. She's trying to say it's dummy proof. And you know what you are, so it's okay. You'd be great. It'd be great. It'd be great. All right. What are some tangible goals for staffing and spending that we as a church can be thinking about as we work toward them? Here's the thing that I would think. Right now, we're just kind of mostly in response mode because we're just like, it's hard to dream when there just feels like there's a lot of limiting factors. What I would say is that if we doubled our giving, instead of 14 a week, it was 28 a week, there would be everything. There would just probably just about any facility that a church our size would need, we'd be able to get. Anybody who needed or wanted to be full-time would be able to be full-time. I mean, right now, we're managing pretty well at the staff level that we have. But again, you can imagine if our church doubled in size, it's going to require double everything. And I think that we need to be prepared for that. We need to be able to move into a facility that's twice this size with a staff team that's twice as strong, and that will require twice as much money. And I think that is a very reasonable goal. I don't think $28,000 a week for a church of our relative affluence and the size that we are is completely unreasonable. It's only unreasonable because we've allowed ourselves mentally to think that we can't do it. We've kind of gotten to what we'll just call a scarcity mentality that says, well, we can't get our church, we can't get our people to, we can't get 80 people to serve in Grove Kids, and we can't get people to tithe. We can't. Actually, we can. We can. We have. God has given us everything that we need to do and be and become everything that we need to be. It's all here. It's all here. It's just going to require for us to kind of make these small steps. Question about baptism. Thoughts on baptism, submersion versus sprinkled. I have less of an opinion about that as more than I do that baptism is for people who have already made a decision to follow Christ. Baptism is something that you do as a response to something that God has done in your life, not as preparation for something that is going to be done later in your life, which is the very different distinction that we have between baby dedication and baptism. So baptism, I believe, is something that happens afterwards. I think the metaphor of baptism is best illustrated in submersion. I mean, it is it's like buried with Christ in baptism, raised to walk in new life is kind of the imagery. It's like I was completely dead and now I've come to life. That imagery is a little less with pouring or sprinkling. It's a different metaphor. And that's why I think that was practiced early on, which is why that's what we do. So we have three different leaders. Who are the different teams, and how can we pray and support the teams? Well, as far as like the upper level leadership team, we have our staff team, which involves 3 full-time people and just a lot of awesome part-time people. We have elders, which kind of oversee the spiritual aspect of the church. And so we've had some things where, again, we've had all these people come into our church that have these stories that a lot of times evangelical churches like ours, it's like, oh man, people like that aren't supposed to come to our church or whatever. And you're like, well, or people ask really tough questions. What does our church believe about this controversial thing? Right? This is the group that kind of owns those questions and answers, kind of guides us in that way. And they also are the ones that kind of are making sure that we're all just doing okay, kind of spiritual leadership. There's 3 staff guys and 3 non-staff guys who are part of that. Me, Mark, and Cass are part of that. Roger, who is right here, is a part of that team. And Dustin Pope and Scott Sutton are also a part of that team. A third team would be our trustees team. A lot of churches just have kind of that one lay, like non-staff group of elders that kind of help lead the church. And they kind of do the spiritual and the administrative. We've kind of broken those things into 2 teams because lots of times it's 2 very different skill sets. The people who are good at loving and encouraging and nurturing people, and the people who are good at kind of overseeing business administrative affairs. God has really blessed us that I honestly think that we could take the men that are on each of these teams and switch them and still be okay. But I think ultimately the way that we have them, we're playing more to their primary strengths. And so then there's a group of guys that are part of this trustees team. They help manage the budget. They help with a lot of, it's Monday. What do you call it? Like the person that helps get human resources. That was it. Thanks. People who know me best I can just start mumbling and they know what I'm trying to say. Human resources kind of stuff, just kind of long-term strategic thinking. And let's see, who else? Ross Larwood is a part of that. Dan Rasmussen is a part of that. Bryson, Bill Winters, and Ben Kirksey are a part of that team. And I meet with those groups alternatively on Wednesday mornings every other week. And those are the teams that kind of provide primary leadership. And so they ask here, how can we pray for those teams? I would say the biggest thing that you can do right now is I think what we're trying to learn as a staff and leadership teams we're all trying to learn the lesson of the thing that I was just saying, which is how can we continue to be a gracious and loving church, but also push you when you need to be pushed. And so we need to figure out how to gain one without losing the other. And I think that's not just a thing to pray for me, but a thing we can be praying for all of the leadership teams. Pray for our staff team. It's just a weird thing to be on staff at a church. There's a spiritual heaviness that comes with that. That's hard to describe. When the place that is supposed to be the primary source of your spiritual life and encouragement is also your job, that's weird. I mean, there's just a lot of weird things about it. So I would just pray for their own spiritual health, encouragement, that we would continue to have, and I think that we do continue to have a culture that allows our staff to be good staff people, but also to be loved well by the church, that we would never turn into a church that, I think I mentioned this yesterday, where we look at staff people and say ugly things to them like, well, that's your job, not my job. I'm like, no, this is not cool. This is all our job, and we appreciate what you specifically do, and that that non-staff people view staff people as like, man, I'm here to encourage and support you, and they're looking their jobs to how they can encourage and support you, and that's the way that a great team like that could work. So I guess a question that got asked before that I didn't answer well enough is getting asked again. What is our current staffing and what would be ideal? So again, I'm full-time. Leslie, our chief administrator, she is full-time. Matt, he's full-time. Cass, who does our worship, he and Mark are not quite full-time, but, we're part-time doesn't quite seem to cover it, but it's not quite full-time. Kanya and Skylar, I put you in that category too. Not quite full-time, but, mostly. Right? And then Kanya is part-time with our kids. Brian Fitton does part-time with some of our creative ministry. Z Ivy is our facilities part-time. This is like, you ever had the thing where it's like, name all 7 dwarves? And it's like, they were all supposed to be here. So if you weren't here, that's your own fault, Brad. And then Brad, he's just working just a few hours for us a week, kind of helping us with a lot of our host teams and our connection process. Really, we thought it was a guy that we've known for a while, moving to the area, who just it was a part of our church that really needed, I think, fresh eyes. And ideally, what would the ideal be? All of those people could be full-time. There's not one of those people that be like, I don't even know what they would do if they were here for 40 hours. I don't even know. No. I think that's a full staff team, but the full staff team would look like them all being full-time. So, have you considered asking church members to give to specific needs, i.e., invest in men's or women's retreat, care team, kids programming, or staffing, break down budget needs into giving opportunities? Okay, I'm going to give... I'm going to use a metaphor, and you're going to laugh at the metaphor because it has to do with Razorback basketball. So for the red-white game, which is the interpersonal scrimmage that they're doing, They're doing it in the place where they used to play basketball like 25 years ago, a place called Barnhill. They're doing it there. And everybody's all excited about how cool that is. It's cool. They're doing this one game, one only, in the old place where they used to play. And how cool is that? And then, because everybody thinks that's cool, then they text me, Charlie, what do you think about that? And my initial response to that is, I would just like to see us win games and fill up the arena that we have. I'm not into, this is a gimmick. And at the point in which you need to use a gimmick, there's a problem. The problem is we're not winning enough games to fill up the arena that we have. So we're going to try a gimmick in order to spark interest. This is, I understand this. And again, I have no idea who sent it. And so don't feel bad. It's not personal. But to me, I get that. But at the point in which it's like, I'm not trying to convince you that you need to tithe. I'm trying to say, hey, will you give $500 a month to our kids' ministry? We're implementing gimmicks when the reality of it is we just all need to tithe. Now, there have been situations where we have done things like this. Hey, we've got this special need and things came up. Would you be willing to give to this? But those are not primary measures. Those are secondary. Desperation's too strong of a word, but those are things that you do when what you need to be doing is not working. So it's not that I would object to this. It would just mean that means that what the primary thing that we're trying to do is not working. The reality of it is the things that basic things that we're trying to do were working. And the reason why I bring up giving right now is because I want you, when you see the report on Sunday that says we need 14 a week and we're getting 14 a week and we're running a surplus, I want you to feel something different than, whew, that's good. I want you to feel, that's good, comma, but I remember when he said, we've got bigger challenges out there, and it is only going to be when we start running surpluses that we're going to be able to get our facilities and our staff team to ultimately where they need to be. And so it's 14 and we got to keep going. And so I want you to mentally look at that and think 16 until it's 16, and then think 18, and then let's just keep moving. Right. So the community care team, the money that comes from that does not come from our normal budget. It has its own giving resource. And the reason why that we do that, especially initially, was when we first launched that team, it was back a very dry season in the church. There was no money in the budget. We were barely surviving financially, but we really felt like God wanted us to do this. And so there's kind of this faith step that's out there. It's like, well, let's just see what God would do if we launched this and just had money come to that. And the reason why we have kept it that way is I feel like if we just moved it into the budget, there's a sense in which that would be a limiting factor to it. I think the fact that it has its own budget with its own group of people who are invested in it and encouraging people to consider that, I think that really builds faith for one. It builds into people's minds of this idea of giving above and beyond, because if we just kind of looked at this year's budget, here's all the things that we need to do in order to make basic church functions work, and we've got, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred a week we could give to the community care deal. And they're like, well, okay, well, that's all we can really do this year is whatever $200 a week will give us. And that's just not how it works. That ministry has thrived under this. And so it's not a lack of value. It's allowing it to kind of have its own energy, to kind of have its own momentum. And having its own momentum, I think, has allowed that ministry to thrive. And yesterday was really about kind of rebranding it to give it a name that is a little more user-friendly, and also to kind of get some momentum, because it's to get more people aware of it. It needed some better awareness. So the rebranding and kind of giving it a few minutes in the service that's what that was designed for. Anybody else have a question? That question was, what was the deal with talking about benevolence community care yesterday? You got the answer. It was like Jeopardy. Maybe you could figure out the question by the time I got a minute into it. But sorry I did not repeat the question. You got anything else back there? I really do appreciate you guys a ton. And again, because I'm still kind of, processing this new idea about me and what I need to do and how I can lead better, I feel like I need to say things and then qualify them. I promise I'm not mad. I'm not disappointed. And to the degree that I am, I just realize why would I be disappointed that something that I built reflects who I am? Right? For me to be disappointed in that would really mean be disappointed in me. Yeah, and so I just think this is us taking an honest assessment of kind of what our weaknesses are, what our next opportunities and challenges are. And so I really, you hear me mostly speak on Sunday, and obviously I have a different tone of voice, a lot more wild mannerisms, a lot more dumb jokes and things like that. This is a little more factual, straightforward. This isn't mad, this isn't upset, this is disappointed. Let's just talk. Let's just talk about the things we need to talk about. Because honestly, I could not be more proud of you guys and of what God has built here and what we've seen God be able to do over the last few years. And the things that are holding us back are very normal for the season that we're in as a church, kind of in a life cycle of still a relatively young church. And the challenges that we have are very attainable. And I believe that one by one, each person kind of making 1, 2, 3 steps in the direction of what it is we know that God is calling us to, will have an overwhelming multiplying effect that we may not even recognize things about our church 3 months, 6 months, a year from now. And to make sure that a few things didn't get lost in kind of all the big picture talk, if you've got small kids, please come to first service, and you need to sign up to serve in Grove Kids. Make a commitment to say that I'm going to be here for both services and to at least serve in an every other week. And if you serve in Grove Kids, you need to come to church. Okay, can I just say that too? If you serve in Grove Kids, come to church. It's not either or. 3 hours is not that long. All right. Otherwise, I'm going to stay here and just keep repeating things all day long. Appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of the night.